Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, brought to you by Join Cycling for one of the, again, most exciting races, I think, of the year. One-day races, the World Championships, individual time trial, both men and women's. Both were extremely exciting, very, very close, particularly the men's race, which just finished now. And yeah, I've really loved a lot of the TT Championships this year. Both the Olympics I thought was excellent and on a knife edge, and this was even closer. But we'll start with the men's race, 46 kilometers long. It had an extra 15 Ks of flat at the start, starting in Zurich, before they had a hill zone in the middle third, where there was the second intermediate time check on top of the Urtikon am See, which I presume is a lookout over something, over the both lakes. And then they progressively descend down. There was some talk about the descent being extremely high speed and dangerous. To be honest, it had one corner in it. It looked okay to me. They've all done a recon of it, and it's a cleared road. And then the last 15 Ks or so were flat, pancake flat too, on the lake road back to Zurich, where there was an intermediate time check number 3. So a course that gave opportunities to the flat big boy specialists, to Remco, maybe even to Primoz Roglic. Anything before the race, Benji?
Not necessarily, I think. There was someone that crashed the other day, but I don't remember who, so I don't think it was related to this time trial to begin with. But when it comes to this time trial, Mohoric, yes, he crashed in a gravel recon in Girona, I think, and therefore he might not do, well, I don't know, he still would do gravel worlds or something, but I don't know how that influences his regular worlds, but it's relevant to this time trial, so let's focus on this time trial. Let's hope Mate is okay, and let's see what happened today, because I gotta be honest, we said it when we looked at the parkour the first time around. If we look at the favorites, yeah, for the big boys like Ghana and so forth, the flat terrain is there to work with. The first 20k and the last 15 kilometers, but also that climb in the middle, it's a perfect combination for someone like Remco, who is good on the flat as well, but also has a bit of a benefit on the climbs. But does having a benefit on the climbs mean that you go harder on the climb or go similar tempo, but save a bit more energy for the flat afterwards? It's kind of a thing you can look into. And also when it comes to Affini, on paper you'd say, yeah, Affini is better at the shorter time trials. Now, the European Championships, he demitted that a little bit because he won the European Champs and was longer than his usual solid time trials. And I was wondering, can he do it on a 46 kilometer parkour? But especially, how is he going to pace it? Because if he's going to pace it like his usual shorter time trials, then he will blow up. And with Affini's pacing plan throughout today's stage, I feel like it's very visible that he didn't pace it like a short time trial, because he started off as 7th at the first time check and then got gradually better throughout the parkour itself. But in what order shall we do this?
Well, yeah, Affini's, I think, a good place to start, maybe, and he's someone we look at and we think of as maybe a prologue sort of guy. After 10 Ks of flat, not looking too good for him. He's sort of a sprint lead-out guy as well. But yeah, as you said, Benji, it looked in the hill zone, which, listen, the T1 to T2 we're going to use as the guide for the hill zone, but actually that includes a decent 5 Ks of flat. But Affini was 5th from T1 to T2. And then the descent, which is T2 to T3, if I apply that on PCS, it will destroy my screen. He was about 6th there. And then T3 to the finish, he was 2nd, 9:40, only 4 seconds slower, 3.5 seconds slower than the quickest time, which was Pipo Ganna. Now, we must say Affini had a pretty outrageous moto in front of him for a lot of this TT, which was, we sort of laugh, but in major international championships, it happened in the Vuelta stage 1, or like from memory with Vasek, and Affini kind of got the good rub of the green. Yeah.
Because?
Yeah.
Now Affini,
but this is a world champs TT.
Yeah, but you also, then I see some people criticizing Affini for having a motorbike in front of him. It's not his fault. And yes, if that motorbike is there and you're a rider, you will try to use it. Like, if it's there, why not try to use it? But it's not the rider's fault, it's the organization, it's that motorbike for being too close, then the organization sometimes shouts through the radio towards that motorbike, get away from there, get further away. But there needs to be some kind of, I don't know what the English word is, some sensibilization campaign within cycling towards motorbike drivers in races that they need to take more distance, not just in time trials, but also in road races. Because, well, let's be honest, it affects the race. And I don't know how much it would have affected today's result for Affini. Do you reckon it affects his result?
Yeah, by some degree. It's hard to know how much, whether it affects the medals, but certainly it affects his time. But then there's other guys who aren't on camera a lot. Tarling's first half wasn't on camera. Maybe he's got no motor. I don't know. Maybe he didn't have a follow camera motor, which cost him.
He should.
Yeah, I mean, Tarling, he's top 3 favorite for this time trial. So yes, indeed, he should have one. But I will move to those 3 favorites. And let's just say Affini set the stall out at the finish. He set a time of 53.56, over 51 k's an hour average. And he put big time onto Kasper Asgren. Jay Vine looked like he might indeed beat Affini, but he crashed, unfortunately, in this TT. I don't know exactly whether it was on the descent or it was in a corner around T3, but he looked on track to medal this, but unfortunately crashed, looked quite hard. He did finish under his own steam, so that's a real shame for him. But it, I guess, confirms his pedigree as really an elite time trial rider. But the big 3 favourites, Benji, not without drama. What happened with Remco Evenepoel on the start ramp?
Well, Remco Evenepoel on the start ramp, we see him getting his golden bike out. We see him on the starting ramp, ready to start his time trial. It's about, let's say, half a minute left, roughly, and we see that someone's coming up to him. They're starting to have issues because Remco was paddling backwards in preparation of starting off, launching off, and in doing so, it went from the big ring to the inside of the big ring, the chain, basically. So chain was off, and they had to put it back on. To be honest, if it's just before the time trial starts, it's better than in the race, as long as you get it on time. But on one end, maybe a bit of a bonus when it comes to the adrenaline rush. That could do well, but it could also get you into a state of tilting. So I didn't know where it would go for Remco. Could he take it up again? He started off, and it looked okay. But it's not the greatest thing for confidence in your equipment that the equipment already has an issue just before the start of a race even beginning. Now, he said after the race that he also didn't have a power meter for the entire time trial. How much does that affect you riding a time trial like this? If you have a pacing plan before the race of, okay, I need to make sure I do roughly those amount of watts for the flat to make sure I've got something left for the climb, maybe need to push the climb on that. Does that throw your entire pacing plan away?
Well, yeah, if you intended to pace to power, it does throw it away. Although these guys, that's why I do laugh sometimes, particularly in road races. These guys have got a pretty good handle on what watts they're doing with, give or take, with 10 watts or so. And to be honest, from T3 to the finish, they're just going absolutely all out as hard as they can. Yeah. But it could make a difference. And, this TT is going to get decided by very small margins. I would say Ghana impressed me. Eye test, of course, is the #1 test. You can keep your Tissot timing or whatever. Eye test is #1. Ghana looked really fast and aggressive off the start ramp, actually. But at T1, it was Remco Evenepoel. So on the fastest section of the course, more or less, the 55 kph section, he's gone 13:39, 5 seconds quicker than Ghana, much quicker than Affini, and also 10, 12 seconds quicker than Tarling. So on the where we would say Remco is not as strong as the big boys, he's taking time on them. And I was thinking he's just got to hold them on the flat and smoke them on the climb. But that's actually not what happened. It was actually, well, it sort of is what happened, but yeah.
Looking at those differences before we get to the climb, and we see Remco going faster on the flat than Ghana, I was also thinking maybe this is Ghana making sure that he doesn't go in the red before the climb starts, making sure he can, because he needs to put more watts out than Remco on the climb to climb as fast as Remco does. I'm talking about absolute watts. He needs to make sure the watt per kilo is relatively similar on the climb to be able to get a climb or a time on the climb in that is as good as Remco's on the climb. And to do that, you might need to go a bit slower on the flat beforehand, which then it's a choice for Ghana whether he wants to make sure he hammers in the difference before the climb starts, risking that he goes in the red on the climb, or does it the other way around where he negative splits the flat section before the climb starts. Do you think he did the latter then?
I think Ganna was holding it all for the climb because his climb was so fast. He did it 2 seconds slower than Remco, and it does include a bit of flat, but he was really fast. Second fastest of anybody on the climb. Remco 18:30, Ganna 18:32. Also, Jay Vine smoked it. He did 18:35. Fourth is Voxnor, Victor Campenaerts, who also maybe had a Ganna-style pacing strategy. He also, but he's a lot slower than those two. So Roglic, it wasn't his day today. We were looking to see will he neg split on the climb because he was a bit slow at T1. We wrote his career off at the Dauphiné first time check, and then he came back and saved it. And that's sort of the way he's been pacing TTs. But in fact, today it wasn't to be. He was just sort of if he finished just outside of the top 10. But I mentioned Roglic for a reason. Roglic was, as I said, not on his best level for this course. And I think that will come into play later in this race. But before we get to, I guess, after the climb, where Affini's holding up pretty well, as I said, fifth there, and Vine's gone quick. Tarling, though, I'll end on him. Tarling loses any chance to win this race on the climb. He does 19:10, 40 seconds slower than Remco. There ain't no flat on the world that's going to make the difference to make that up. So he's basically then in the hunt for... also, he's 40 slower than Ganna. He's in the hunt for bronze versus Affini and Vine at that point. But I don't know what it is, whether he had a very, I think, emotional interview after the race. Perhaps I don't know, but he didn't sort of know what went wrong. He said he couldn't go today. You've been given some time off, Benji.
Yeah, I've been given some time off. A few days ago, I did about a 60-kilometer ride, and it's like, I've said already before that, okay, my training, my joint cycling app, I was doing this plan and I was moving house. And during that moving house period, I couldn't hold up with the amount of trainings that I initially had planned that the joint cycling app was advising me to do. But then I thought, okay, I'll try to catch up afterwards gradually. But I think I went a bit too fast because this week I went for a 60K ride, did loads of gravel segments throughout it. I came home, I look at the joint cycling app, I do the how did it go? I'm like, okay, it was actually a bit tougher than I expected because there were uphill gravel segments in there and I was suffering. So I'll give it about a 6, 7. And the app told me, mate, you got to stop for a bit. You're overtraining. And that's also important because on one end, you want an app like joint cycling to tell you what to do, but it's also important for that app to tell you when not to do something. Because otherwise you might get injuries, you might get a little bit of a burnout, etc. It won't end well if you overextend like that. So, and that's my risk when it comes to training. When I get into the habit of training, I sometimes go too far, and joint cycling needs to tell me, back off a little.
This weekend I did 3 rides with Seb here in Girona, just cruising around, and then I've got scheduled on the Lanterne Rouge plan, which you would have heard about in the TT preview. Go check that out if you want to do a very polarized plan. It's what I'm doing at the moment. I did a couple of cruising rides to get back into it after traveling, and then this week I've got, I think, the VO2 session coming up on Tuesday after a day off tomorrow when I'm traveling back to Andorra. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll let you know how that goes. That's really how I like training, is basically cruising around with my mates when I can, just at chatting pace, and then one proper, what I call proper session a week is how I keep mental balance on the Lanterne Rouge plan. Or it's also what I've been doing this year, to be honest, on the Stamina Builder and FTP Builder. So go check out Joint Cycling down below, our show partner for the entire year. Now, the descent was pivotal, T2 to T3. It's where we thought maybe Remco would potentially struggle. But it's still a hill zone. There's still some climbs in there. Remco was quickest there, actually. He took time back, more time on Ganna. 10 seconds from T2 to T3. In fact, Kasper Asgreen was the second quickest from T2 to T3. Less than 3 seconds, 3 seconds behind Remco. And Ganna lost 10 seconds there. Vine 15th there. So let me do some maths. Let me assume Vine has touched down and got straight back up. Let's say he should have been around Affini. Maybe he was even better. There are some hills there. I would say Vine lost at a minimum 22 seconds with the crash. And then he's also, I think, to the finish, 15th, T3 to the finish, so you're going to be physically affected by the crash. Let's say it's cost him more. Yeah, he was banged up.
Because, like, if we take a look at what happens before the crash, like, Vine was really fast on the climb. I don't think we've hammered this home enough. Like, obviously, Evenepoel and Gunnar were ahead of him at the top of the first of the climbs, the hill zones. And when I saw that time check of Vine, I was like, okay, this might actually hold for a potential bronze medal here. Because I never really saw the opportunity for Vine to take this home. But if he would have survived that descent properly and would have been able to keep it up until the finish line, he's fighting in my eyes against Starling and Affini for that bronze podium spot. But he crashed off camera. Sporza reported it first. They were like, okay, there's a picture online. He's got blood on his face, which I was happy to hear that he was already on the bike, but also slightly worried because if you're bleeding from the face, then maybe you've got some head injury that might not be looked at properly. Because if you go up on the bike after, let's say, 20 seconds roughly, get back up and back riding, then you might not have had a proper concussion test either. So it's, I don't know, I'm like torn about this. It's just heartbreaking, you know? Like, Vine does crash a lot, but he was in such a good spot to potentially take a podium here.
Yeah, it was like reminiscent of Kung when he continued in the TT last year with blood all over his face. And yeah, so I think Vine probably would have come third. I'm going to say that he would have come third, just because of the time he spent on the ground and then, yeah, losing time at the end. So, but yeah, that's cycling.
Especially without the Affini motorbike.
Yeah. That's probably for sure. And so it's now we're just looking at Ganna versus Remco. Ganna looking really, really good, maybe the best shape he's had all year. And this TT gets really interesting in that it's over. This TT was over. It was over. Yeah. Remco was holding 15 to 18 seconds on Ganna, and they were going about the same speed, I would say. They're going about the same speed, and Remco had 15 to 18. It was done until the last 5Ks. In my view, I was like, Remco's winning. He was quicker. Yep. He was going quicker from T2 to T3. And then I don't know whether Remco slowed down, because Remco did do T3 to the finish, the same speed as Vos at 56, 57, and that was the fastest 10 minutes of the course, apart from the descent, that last bit. Maybe he slowed down, but what I think really happens here, and you do look through, like Varensgold, big boy, he's up there, that's his best section. Vos, as I said, Asgren, that's their best section. Affini, best section, the big units. But Roglic, we go back to Roglic. He's not had his best TT. Ganna's catching him. And first, Ganna gets and it's not his fault, but it's just fortuitous. The car following Roglic, Ganna gets all the slipstream into that car that's still in the middle. Then he comes out of it. Then the whole last 1,200 meters, Ganna is tracking Roglic in the slipstream and just comes out like a sprint finish to the line. Again, he's not doing anything wrong, unlike maybe Lebu in the women's TT, where we did see how much of a difference it makes, even if you're 10 meters behind. And I was like, that's 10 seconds. That's right there, maybe 10 seconds. And so now this is all to play, because Remco doesn't have anyone to catch. And in the end, it was very, very close. I thought maybe Ganna would have won because of it, but Remco wins the TT by 6.5 seconds ahead of Ganna. He celebrates before the line, which is completely insane. He said he saw green. I was like, that could be wrong. I would keep riding. It's pretty close. It's not like when Dennis won and celebrated.
If we're in the last 10 meters and it says that you're 10 hundredths of a second winning still, then it's also in green. So seeing green doesn't mean much in the last 10 meters either.
He's doing it at 30 meters. He's like, oh, it's green.
Hands in the air. Why not? Hey, it's kind of our fault. We told him to celebrate at the end of time trials, and he's done this twice this year now. So,
it makes it all the. It makes it all. It is an aura. I mean, we haven't really spoken about Remco, but no connection from the power meter to the head unit. His chains dropped before the TT. He's smacking the camera out of the way. The staff are struggling to get it on. This is what champions do, is they still perform against adversity.
Yeah.
Like, he had excuses today not to win. 2 excuses. A lot of people might have been mentally frazzled by, do you have faith in your equipment anymore as you roll off the ramp?
Yeah.
Is my chain about to drop inside and my whole preparation's over? And he does the business and wins another World Championships individual time trial, his second in a row. He's the best time trial rider in the world because he wins it he wins flat, he wins hilly. Yeah, Jonas.
Ever? Question mark?
He's pretty good, I would say. Is this
he
the best TT season ever?
So, Olympics ITT, Worlds ITT, didn't ride the Belgian one, right? He didn't, right?
No.
Pretty sure he didn't.
One Tour
ITT,
one a Dauphiné TT.
Like, I'm not expecting him to win the final TT at the Tour, so that's not really a real sign
TT.
of... I think it might be. Because Olympics matters for a lot, you know?
No, I mean like the course. It's like it's got a mountain in it. Oh, you mean it's his best season?
Yes.
I have to look at Cancellara's. He didn't win the Basque Country opening TT. I would say that is his weakest TTs are semi-technical 10 to 15 minutes with some punchy hills. Because also he wasn't dominant in the hill zone either today. Like dominant. He was, maybe that was a pacing plan, but he's the best on the flat, it seems, except for the,
Cancellara finished his career in 2016 winning the ITT Olympics in Rio. And yes. I think he didn't ride Worlds that year.
Nope. And he, in the Tour ITTs, this is a better season from Remco than that, but maybe there's another better season, but yeah.
How old is he? How many years does he still have left to win time trials left and right, if that's still going to be his focus? Because he mentioned at the Tour de France that once he clears up Olympics, etc., has all those titles, he might change a little bit to even be more GC focused. Not sure whether that will be a benefit or not. I don't know. I haven't done the analysis, but still, like, that's a possibility.
Yeah, huge win for him, and it cements what's probably if Pogačar didn't exist, what would have been one of the greatest, a great season. Like in terms of, time trialing and the Olympic road racing. We've still got the World's Championships road race coming up next weekend, which I can't wait to watch. But yeah, Remco, it was a fantastic race to watch, him against Ganna. Good to see Ganna in good shape, although, very strange season. It just continues the very, very strange season that Ganna has had, basically, where he abandons Renewy with fatigue 3 weeks ago, the day or before the individual time trial, and then comes here in, I would say, best possible shape, and nearly wins this World Champs TT with the hilly course. So it's a bit of a strange year for him, maybe a bit disappointing results-wise.
Exactly. Disappointing results-wise, because, like, yes, he won the Giro TT, but it's Filippo Ganna. He's been multiple world champion in the past. It's been since 2021 that he was world champion last, if I recall correctly. So, yes. I kind of, it's impossible for him not to want more. His Olympics didn't really work out as expected either. Getting second at the ITT, and I'm pretty sure the track didn't go as planned either. I'm not an expert in the track cycling, but I think he didn't win what he wanted to win there either. So when Ganna 1.5-2 years ago was starting to win like hilly sprints or being competitive against Cocard in a Provence sprint or whatever that was, and started winning even years ago against, in that breakaway where Thomas de Gent was fighting some, was it a Colombian guy in Movistar?
Rubio,
maybe. Yes, in the breakaway, because one wasn't pacing or something. Ganna eventually won that same stage, if I recall, from the breakaway. Ganna did great at MSR, was very promising at Roubaix. I need more when it comes to Filippo Ganna, and I can't blame him for that. It's just, I kind of expected more.
can't you blame him for it? Why is he leveraging his whole season for these major international time trial championships that he's not the favourite for?
I agree with you on that.